Welcome in to the DNVR Rockies podcast presented by Strava Craft Coffee. Remember to use that promo code DNVR to get DNVR20 to get 20% off your entire purchase of that CBD infused, deliciously rich and potentially hopefully life-altering from your probably current state of mind, Strava Craft Coffee. I am your host, Drew Creasman. I am currently sitting outside of Coors Field and speaking to you live if you're joining us here on the Periscope, YouTube, or Facebook chat. Of course, with me, as always, is our beat writer, Patrick Lyons, and we got to discuss a devastating Padres and, of course, closer Wade Davis really being at the heart and center of this one. John Gray pitched well. The offense played well. The defense was mostly good. There were a couple little mistakes that looked like it might cost them, but ultimately this one comes down to Wade Davis giving up a pair of home runs in the ninth, 4 runs there. Just absolutely brutal ninth inning for Wade Davis, who we know, of course, had a nightmare at Coors all year.
Yeah, this was a heartbreaker, and that's what we're calling this episode. Is Wade Davis is the heartbreak kid because he just can't seem to get it done against the Padres. He had a close call in Texas for that first save. The second one looked a lot better, but ultimately he just doesn't seem to have it, and he's going to have to get it back very quickly. He's got probably 2 more opportunities to maybe do something. If he's good his next one, okay, great, he'll get a second one. But after that, I mean, fool me twice, this year at least. Shame on me, and I don't think Bud Black can afford to do that in this shortened season. Once Scott Oberg is healthy, that move will happen, and even if he's not healthy, Jairo Diaz will eventually be that guy.
Yeah, and, with Oberg coming back eventually, too, this was obviously a night when the Rockies missed Oberg. Even the way, Patrick, even the way they turned and handed the ball to Tyler Kinley, and it was immediately better results. Everything was sharper. He got a quick strikeout, and you just went, if you'd have done that at any point, even before the second home run, with the way the Rockies rallied there in the bottom of the ninth, you feel like they've got a chance to win this one. And we saw it after the game, or I did, and heard it some more as well, with Bud Black not fully committing to moving on from Wade Davis as a closer. Even still, I do think you're right that it's going to be a very short leash, but they obviously have more faith in him than any of us do, and I've understood to some degree why that had been the case, and coming into the year there were some positive signs. But dude, that fastball to Fernando Tatis Jr., that's 92 right over the heart of the plate at the belt. That's a pitcher looking to take yard every time. And then he almost walked the bases loaded rather than walk the bases loaded, though he gave up the 3-run jack instead. And so you're seeing the things that led to the failures of seasons past. It's not just, hey, it happened, that was bad, maybe it won't next time. It's the same bad process leading to the same bad results.
And we've talked about it in the past, this idea that whoever your closer is doesn't even have to be your best reliever. Yeah, there's a skill to certainly get those final outs, and we know guys who can do it, other guys a little bit more questionable, of course. But some of those bigger innings come in the 7th or 8th, and if those are the biggest outs, you don't necessarily need to use Scott Oberg, waiting just for the 9th inning if the biggest out is in the 7th or in the 8th inning. But that being said, if your guy in the 9th is not getting the job done, then you need to find a new spot for him in that bullpen somewhere, possibly, potentially, but you just can't keep running him out there, and the leash is going to be incredibly short, to say the least.
Yeah, I see some people asking about trades and stuff like that, Henry. You're not getting anything. There's no trading Wade Davis at this point. Your options are play him sometimes or cut him. And I said this on Twitter tonight. I don't believe that you have to cut Wade Davis, and that's probably an unpopular opinion right now. A lot of people, most Rockies fans, would just feel much better if he was not on the roster anymore, and I get that. But there are 3 guys in this bullpen who haven't even pitched yet. You don't need to remove him from your club. You can pitch him in 5th and 6th innings or when games are more in hand or well out of hand. There's still a role for this guy on the team, and there's not necessarily somebody else in the organization who absolutely demands that they have that roster spot right now. Jesus Tinoco is the only guy I could think of who's maybe pushing that issue at all. Beyond that, no, he can be on the roster. He just can't close ball games anymore. And he definitely can't close ball games at Coors Field. We have enough data here. We've got the data on that one, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's nobody competent that would take his spot in the bullpen. And again, we're saying in his spot in the bullpen as a guy who's pitching the 5th or 6th inning, just setting up, right, in lower leverage situations, because I think Wade Davis still has, a lot of value to the team. He has little to no value on any other team, partially because of what his contract looks like. Now, granted, he's not going to be making, $15 million this year because of the shortened season, but still, the other teams that are in operation, they don't even want to pay that prorated salary. So the Rockies would still end up having to pay down most, if not all, and they wouldn't get back really anybody of any value. And most teams are savvy enough to just say, we'll wait for you to cut him, and then we just get to pay him the league minimum. Or really, at this point, with how they've organized all of these payment schedules and things of that nature, they might not even have to pay him at all, because players that are getting league minimum right now aren't actually even receiving a paycheck. They've already been paid in April and May.
Right, and that could be the silver lining if people are looking at the long term here. There were some questions recently. I was talking to people on Twitter about his option vesting and him having to finish 11 games. And, the worst case scenario there for the Rockies would have been for him to kind of slog through those 11 games, not look good, but get them done and then really turn into it if he's doing it now before he hits that threshold. So the Rockies can at the very least not have this problem go down the road. And there will be no case for the union to make when the guy's given up 2 home runs an inning and walking over 6 batters per 9. The union doesn't have a leg to stand on saying, oh, you only cut him so you didn't have to pay him. Like, no, dude, they cut him because he was bad. And that's just part of what happens. But yeah, Patrick, it is like I said on Twitter, right? The good news is the Rockies played incredibly well, except for one guy. And the bad news is the Rockies played incredibly well, except for one guy, and that one guy is what ended up costing them the game. I will also say, though, this is the first time all season, and really the first time in a while that I've felt like Bud Black made some highly questionable decisions, both leaving Wade Davis in when things were getting out of control, and though I don't think you can pin it on the manager when the team doesn't make a dramatic 3-run comeback in the bottom of the 9th, and all this stuff has led up to it, and who he picks with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th to come up there and try to get it done, especially given his options. All that said, I just wasn't in love with taking out Sam Hilliard there and going to Chris Owings and his career 190 batting average. I get the right on left stuff, but not my favorite move, Patrick.
Yeah, we had a brief exchange about that, and I think it makes all the sense in the world, just because of the struggles that Hilliard has been having in the early going. Left on left, you have a guy like Drew Pomeranz, who he earned every bit of the contract he received this offseason. Sure, it's at Coors Field where he hasn't pitched the best. Rockies fans will certainly remember that, especially when they consider the return on that Ubaldo Jimenez deal from several years ago, a decade ago now at this point. But ultimately, I think you might even be setting up Sam Hilliard for failure there in many ways. And sure, there were 4 guys on the bench that were right-handed bats. Josh Fuentes is yet to play, so you can take him off the table. And really, you've got Butera and Elias Diaz. Like, those are the 3 guys.
Diaz also cold.
In Owings, and Owings actually is 1 for 4 against Pomeranz, so he did have a homer. Didn't even need a homer, just needed a base hit that would have scored 2 runs. Nolan would have.
And it was a solid at bat.
Base. It was, and again, yeah, you already used your big bat off the bench. Matt Kemp already came in a big spot and altered the game. So Bud Black said, you know what? Here's when I need to push the button, and he pushed it at the exact same time, at the exact right time. Only problem was, later on, he pushed the Wade Davis button, and didn't push the Tyler Kinley button to get him out of there in that moment. Because even if he doesn't give up that 3-run home run, a tie game, it's 5-5. You got to like the Rockies' chances with the top of the order coming up in the bottom of the ninth. And you say, all we got to do is get one run there. And even if you don't, you got extra innings. And then still, with the runner on second base, anything can happen at that point. But very frustrating, and nothing but comments on Wade Davis. And it's understandably frustrating with this game, how much importance it had. Home opener aside, it was a game for, first place. And it was a guy trying to, reclaim some of his glory and failing against a team that he failed against in a major way last year and derailed their 2019 season. And I don't think it's happened again, but I don't think we're going to see Wade Davis again in this series. That's a fact. I would be shocked.
I hope about that, and they can't get Scott Ober back quickly enough. There were a couple of other little mistakes, Patrick, that I thought, we had talked about this too, how this was one of those types of games that in 2017 and 2018, the Rockies figured out a way to win. And in 2019, they almost always figured out a way to lose. And this looked eerily similar to 2019, especially the Wade Davis and Padres stuff. There were a few other things that I thought were a little bit different, particularly the way they responded. Some were the same, though. The mistakes, Trevor Story not converting the double play that ended up leading to 2 runs and got John Gray out of the game before he should have been. That was a bad mistake. But they recovered from it, and they answered for it with runs right away. There was a similar thing with Daniel Murphy making a really dumb base running error that took a run off the board for the Colorado Rockies. It's the first time this year I felt like they played mistake-heavy baseball, but they still almost won the game anyway, just from being, I think, the more talented team, other than the guy they put out there, obviously, to try to close games. So those mistakes are not what sank them. And they would have in many other years. Even the way they responded in the bottom of the ninth, the fact that they got the tying run to third base and the winning run to second, they were a dirt ball away from tying that thing up. And if Owings puts that ball a little more in the gap or drops it in front of the center fielder, the Rockies are walking out of their winners somehow. And then you're really scratching your head as to what happened. But I hate to do this, I really do, because it's a team sport. It really came down to the performance of one guy. And so back to I hope you're right. He can't be back out there in the ninth inning again this series. I don't think he should be back out there in any inning earlier than the 7th at Coors Field until further notice. But that maybe is an overreaction. Probably for most Rockies fans, that's a dramatic underreaction.
For sure, you bring up those errors, with Murphy at third base and the error by Trevor Story, who will not play the final 59 game season, 59
error
games
free.
of the season,
Yeah, you thought
error
maybe
free, which was my prediction going forward there. But I think you saw the Padres kind of doing the same thing, especially in the ninth with Kirby Yates, who's a guy who's been about as shut down as any closer in the game has been. And I think in a way, with these two teams, atop the NL West standings again after only a week, you kind of see that both clubs maybe aren't quite ready yet for prime time, right? That they've got their holes, they've got some flaws, but obviously a lot of potential, obviously a lot of gusto. Those cucarachas are still kind of in their blood, right? They don't die, they multiply, and they bring in new people to take that over. And so, you're going to see these two, I think, battling throughout the entirety of the season. But the Padres aren't quite there and ready yet. Yes, they got the best of the Rockies today, and maybe they got the best of one guy. But regardless, I think these two teams, when they get together, you cannot miss a single pitch, and you cannot assume, even with 2 outs, 2 strikes in the ninth inning, whatever it may be, anything could happen when it's Padres, Rockies, and we got 2 more games here at Coors Field this weekend. And again, anything can and will happen.
Yeah, So stock up on Breck Brew for the weekend. It's going to be quite the series. You're going to need your medicine for you there. You can get it from Davidson's, either the curbside pickup or delivery. You know they got you hooked up with all the good liquor, wine, spirits, all that stuff. And, of course, your favorite Breck Brews. You know I like to swing out to the house whenever I'm able to. A little late right now. I think I'll head down there tomorrow on the Saturday. I'll call 303-803-1380 from noon to 8 p.m. and I will use that code DNVR because I'll get $5 off both my food and my drink. Been loving the Mile High City Copper Lager. After a loss like this, though, you may need something a little heavier. You may be going to that Hot Peak IPA. You may need a dessert comfort beer. It may be more of a vanilla porter situation for you right now. I'd probably, be into a couple vanilla porters back in the day if I was not still technically, I guess, kind of at work. Man, when these two teams are going up against each other, tough to pin down exactly what's going to happen. I know a lot of guys on the DraftKings Sportsbook app were taking the under on that 11.5 today. I tried to warn some people off of it. I just didn't have a good feeling in my gut. I didn't think it was going to come down to there being 2 outs left in the bottom of the ninth. So not only did that second home run from Davis clinch the win for the Padres ultimately, but and screw up people who took the Rockies, just the Rockies to win the game on their DraftKings Sportsbook app, but also the people that took the under. So if you thought it was just brutal that he lost the game, if you took the good bets there, a tough one, but still more often than not, when you put in your bets on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, you're going to make it a lot more fun for yourself in these games. Try to do win-lose bets. That's what I do instead of these lose-win bets or lose-lose bets, right? Where you really need the thing to happen, and then it doesn't. Not only are you mad that your team lost, you're out some change. Go the other way a little bit. Take the over on those. But if you download that top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app and use promo code DNVR when you sign up, for a limited time, all users will get a special odds boost of a bet of $20 to win $100 on any team of your choosing. That's code DNVR to boost your odds to 20 to win 100 only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Other terms and conditions and eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-522-4700. Let's talk about some of the good things, Patrick. There will be more time to bemoan this. We hope moving forward, this is hey, remember when Wade Davis was their closer and that one time Bud Black did all those really head-scratching things late in the game, but it didn't really end up mattering because it just turns out this team is good? Well, John Gray coulda, shoulda, woulda gone 7 tonight. Instead, gives you 5 2/3 solid. You got good stuff again out of Bard and Diaz. And again, Gray, without the top stuff, I thought, is velo maxing out at 95. The slider wasn't as wicked as it could have been. He wasn't getting the big swings and misses. Only 2 strikeouts, both of them enough 3-pitch strikeouts to Fernando Tatis Jr., who ended up tying up the game there. But without his best stuff, without the swing and miss stuff, he was getting guys to hit the ball on the ground. The only one who really got him was a dude I had to look up after he hit that triple to break up the no-hitter.
The pride of St. Clair, Michigan, Jake Cronenberg. That's the
Jake,
man.
That's the guy. But yeah, I thought John again looked promising, but still with more to add and more room for him to continue to settle into a rhythm and be good this year.
For sure. I mean, the one stat I don't like is he did give up 10 hard hit balls, so that obviously was something there. But again, when you're getting the first 8 guys out and you're making it look relatively easy, you'd like more swing and miss, of course. But did a quality job, getting through that lineup. I think that was identical to what happened with the Rangers series, where it was the number 9 hitter who finally broke through with a triple, Is that right? And do I have that right? That the 9-hitter came through with a triple because David Dahl missed that? So a triple broke up with 2 outs in the 3rd inning on last Saturday, and then Friday, the home opener, the same exact thing. So yeah, that's kind of strange, but yeah, John Gray definitely has something to build on,
Yeah.
and again, it's one of those things where if Trevor Story makes that play, so he gives up 3 runs, only 2 were earned because of the Story error there, but he's able to go 7 innings there again, much like what we had talked about with Saturday's start against the Rangers. Is there was that capability where the pitch count was down a little bit, and things were really lining up for him to have a dominant stat line as far as innings pitched and earned runs against. And unfortunately, that wasn't the way. But you like what he was able to do throughout much of the start.
Yeah, I do want to point out that I believe, I'll double check this, but I believe 9 of those 10 hard hit balls you were talking about were on the ground. So if you're going to give up a hard hit ball, sure if everyone can still hear me or not. But the other thing that I wanted to point out with Gray there was I didn't like that. I get the scoring of it, but in my mind, I'm only charging him for 1 run. The other one has to be earned, and I get it. But if Trevor Story converts, because you can't, quote, assume the double play, which has always been an interesting rule for me in baseball. It's like, I can assume that if he fields that, he's going to convert a double play. But I understand how the rule is enforced. My problem isn't with the rule. I'm analyzing a baseball player at this point and recognizing that the only run that John Gray gave up that you can charge entirely to him was it was a 1 out. It was the 1 out little pokey single to right. Nice piece of hitting from Manny Machado. Little off speed pitch low. We're playing a little bit too deep. Got to argue with Mark Knudsen about that sometime soon. But actually, he's very much of the opinion that they need to be playing more shallow as well. I'm trying to remember where he was on that. But yeah, if Story fields that ball cleanly and he really should have. It wasn't a short hop. That was really strange to
Yeah, I'm
see
not
him whip
sure.
on that one. The double play is converted, and those next 2 runs don't come in. So
Yeah, on the
I'm
broadcast.
charging John Gray for 1 run in this game. I thought he looked pretty to very good.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That makes all the sense in the world. There was some discussion as to whether Story was thinking about trying to touch second base and kind of take it all on his own, but he was pretty far away from the bag. So just kind
I'm
of
out and with the old.
an odd play there that happened, and that really just kind of it derailed things momentarily at that point, and then you had the wild pitch by John Gray that lets a run score, and then you see Tony Walters go back, and you only see it very slightly on the replay. He went to take after he threw the ball home to John, kind of took 1 step back, and there was no more room for him to go, so the front of his foot kind of compressed, and all his weight came down on his toe rather than back on his heel there. But he was, true to Tony's credit. It's true to form that he just was able to tough it out, play the remainder of the game, and didn't have any ill effects. It's just kind of what happens. It's why they call catcher's equipment, the tools of ignorance, because it's like if anyone were to really think about
Right.
what position they
Right.
would play on the field, you would not want to play catcher unless you were a masochist, which I think all catchers are probably in some way, but you wouldn't. We all have enough intelligence to go, yeah, no, I don't want my child to be the catcher. Look at all these other people. They're fine. Look, they're spaced out. They don't have to worry about an errant bat that gets, released from someone's hand and whacks you on the ear and you're bleeding. Like, these are all things that happen when you're behind the plate. So, again, credit to Tony for sticking that out. And that could have been a lot worse. And it would have been if the Rockies hadn't come back and Story hadn't chipped in with an RBI there and score a couple runs. But it's really all about that 9th inning. Once again, we're talking about the 9th.
Yeah, there's no way around it. The only other good signs that I wanted to point out before we get out of here, and actually before pointing out the good signs, I got to remind everybody about WGT Golf, the most famous and beloved free golf game in the world, loved by over 20 million players around the world. You can play full stroke play or closest to the hole on world famous courses, including Pebble Beach, Bethpage, Black, and more. You download it totally for free at DNVRGolf.com. I had to give a quick wave to our friend, the cowboy, Tracy Ringlesby, as he leaves the ballpark here this evening.
He came down. That's great.
He's been around. He was chatting with me a little bit today about these Padres and Rockies and our agreed bafflement at the strange consensus about the two teams, and then something like this happens and you just have to shake your head. And of course, Tommy Pham, the guy I said wasn't going to be the big difference maker in the NL West, coming through with a big 3-run jack there at the end. So I've got to eat some crow on that one, at least here early in the season. On a couple of fronts here, the Rockies taking the loss to the Padres and the Tommy Pham stuff in particular. But as you were alluding to there, we saw good stuff out of the offense. Another multi-hit game for Trevor Story. Got the big opposite field home run late in the game that you thought maybe would be the game winner. Scoring a couple more runs, by the way. Nice for that bet. Keep on a lookout for that. I think he's tied for second right now with 7 of them. Depending on who else did what today. I haven't checked in on all of that. Matt Kemp made his Coors Field Colorado Rockies uniform debut and saw 1 pitch and drove in 2 runs.
He was all ready to have his cardboard cutout made and ready to go, saying, you know what, I want Rockies fans to remember me, and they certainly did with that, and right down the line and double, and he's obviously has something left in his swing. It's the parallels between him and Matt Holliday are really kind of endless in so many ways, and he's going to be a major factor on this team. You're going to look at the stats at the end of the season, and it's not going to be up there in the top 5 in just about any category, unless we're talking about rate stats and slugging percentage and things of that nature. But ultimately, he's just going to have some seriously timely hits, and in a different game that plays out differently. It's not Chris Owings that Buddy goes to, it's Matt Kemp. You know, if it's all working and Story never makes that error and you don't need to come from behind, Kemp is still on your bench.
That's right.
Now you can go ahead. So again, it's the dominoes start falling, and you got to try to corral that somehow. And the real goal is to not have that first one topple over, because that's going to throw everything out of whack a little bit. And we kind of saw what that looked like today. Another bet
that's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Another bet that we had talked about is the fact that Charlie Blackmon in the last 3 seasons has the most hits of any major leaguer. He's now hitting 308, 3 hits today. So if you put money down on that for most hits in all of baseball, again, you might be good. And with everything that we've talked about as far as the Rockies taking the health and safety protocols so very seriously, well, any team that plays all 60 games is going to have that much more of an advantage for one of their players to win out in a counting stat like runs scored or base hits or home runs and things of that nature. So your Colorado Rockies they're going to try to be out there for all 60 games this season, which means any of that money that you put on Story or Charlie Blackmon, it's coming to fruition. It's more likely to happen because of how well the Rockies are working within, the health and safety protocols and taking this seriously, so they can stay on the field, so that they can play and win you guys a championship.
Yeah, and so I think, again, not to belabor the point, if we were sitting here breaking down all these things that had gone wrong for the Rockies, it would maybe not feel as frustrating as a game you feel like you should have won that you didn't if it was just a complete loss here. But you really are looking at a team that is 95% playing well and doing things right. And you can't do all the little things right all the time. Mistakes are going to be made. Errors are going to be made. So recovering from them then also becomes a big deal. And we talked about that in this one. It's just going to be, can they not have these implosions, these momentary innings, whether it's one player, one guy, one inning, one decision, one mistake, that ruins a game that you should otherwise win. The Rockies played the better baseball game today. They played the better baseball game and lost. You can only suffer.
Yeah, implosion is the word. Implode. Where then that's what happened with Wade Davis. He imploded because you can make an error, you can make a mistake. Story did it, but then team picked him up. Even when Davis imploded, the Rockies still came back. They had, the winning run at the plate. Murphy draws a walk. Now you got the winning run at first base, and it could have happened, but you just can't have a handful of errors, and you just can't have one guy completely imploding. And it's going to happen. That will happen with other guys. It won't even just be Wade Davis. But you just have to make sure to minimize that damage, whatever it is. If a guy doesn't have it, you can't let him stay in the game very long. And that goes for starting pitchers too. It might be, you know what, this guy's after one inning, he's done, because you almost have to treat every game like a playoff game and say, all right, Chi-Chi, Ashton Godot, we're going to lean on you for 3 innings each so that our offense can maybe chip away at that, but you can't let one guy totally blow it up. And that's the secret to success, I think, for all 30 major league teams.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't think there's a 0% chance that by the end of a week or 2 weeks from now or before he would have gotten any chance to get anywhere close to those 11 games, he's not on the roster anymore. We see 1 or 2 more of these. We saw it with Sean McGee. The Rockies will cut ties. So it's going to be very, very. He's walking on incredibly thin ice after a performance like that. Hey, thanks to everyone for joining us. Thanks, Kenny the bartender, for being a first-time watcher. Hopefully you'll join us again in the future. Anybody else out there that is, join us. We'll be going live after all the games. We'll have to figure out the exact best methodology for doing that in the future. Usually I'll be able to get down to the DNVR bar, just doing it from right outside Coors Field tonight. But we'll be here after all the games. And Kenny, that's funny that you say this is your first time, because these have been known as therapy sessions. Because if I'm famous for anything, it's for giving therapy sessions to Rockies fans after losses like this.
It definitely won't be the last time. So you got our number.
That's right.
It's right after every game.
We'll be here for you. We're here. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel so you catch when we go live. Always right after the games, oftentimes in the mid-afternoon, just to talk baseball. Check us on Facebook or Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to the DNVR.com so you don't miss out any of our written content. And you can also get cool discounts on all of our awesome merch, like this hat, that shirt that Patrick's got on. We got masks. I got mine around here somewhere. Boom. You want to be all set up with your DNVR merch, and we have got all kinds of fantastic Rockies shirts, including my favorite, my old favorite, which was the Don't Dash on the Stash Tony Wolters one. But the new favorite is, of course, that Larry Walker Hall of Fame shirt for members only. Right now, you got to be a member of the DNVR.com to be able to get your hands on that incredibly exclusive shirt. There it is if you're watching live. You can see Larry Walker with his batting helmet on backwards for the All-Star game, getting ready to show everyone just exactly what it is he's made of. So, thank you all for listening into this one. Sorry about the results, but we'll be back here again talking more baseball. We got a couple of lefties, Kyle Freeland and Joey Lucchese, going against each other. Got more Rockies baseball every day. We will be here with you. Follow on the social media at Patrick D. Lyons, at Drew Creasman, at DNVR_Rockies. Just continue to be absolutely awesome out there. We will continue to be absolutely Patrick Lyons and Drew Creasman in here, or out here still. And until next time, we will see you at the ballpark.